Hey, this is Jeff with the Building Boys. By trade, I'm a chiropractor, and I own other real estate ventures such as extended stay suites and long-term rentals. One day a week, I grow my passive income portfolio. In these videos, I will be working alongside my father building our next passive income stream, a senior citizen fourplex. Watch our videos and repeat the process for yourself so you can become financially free.
All right, everybody, we're going to be starting to do casing around the doors. So it's going to be very similar to the windows. We're just going to take a little chunk, find about right where, we want the reveal. So maybe like an 1/8 inch of this door showing. We're just going to mark with a pen like I did right there on both sides. Okay, then we're going to measure from here to here. Then we're going to add 1.5 inches. So you have a little bit of a overhang, just like the windows. So we have the same look, okay? All right, so after we do that, we've cut the board. So this actually comes out to be 44.5. Take a palm sander, rough all those edges, or smooth them, I'm sorry. Then we're gonna stain this edge so that it's not, bare wood. And then we are gonna nail it just the same way with like an 1/8 inch reveal on top of that door, okay? Now, I did pound this. This is all hit by me because this drywall was sticking up past here, so it would have left like a gap or something. So sometimes you just with the hammer to break that so that the trim will go straight flush up against the door. Okay guys, so then we talked about the top piece. So then we just mark 3/4 of an inch back set, leave about an 1/8 to 3/16 reveal, basically enough for you to have your strike plate. And then you just I'm using 18 gauge 2 inchers and making sure you shoot through the door frame and the other nail through the cripple stud. That is it with casing. All right, everybody, we have all casing done inside the closets and everything is starting to shape up. Now we're starting to get into the base. So we're doing more of that mission style. Pretty simple. Because when you come to the corners, we just butt them. Okay, we're not doing, I'm trying to use my fingers. We're not doing 45s and matching them in. You can just butt these in because it's a square cut. Now, if it's like a ranch where it's got like a cove on the top, you want to use like a little coping saw and cut out the back. The next duplex, I'll probably use that trim to show that. So when it comes to squares, like a square room, these are inside corners. These things are super easy. So closet's really simple. This is really simple. As long as you got long enough pieces. I already ran out of long pieces, so I don't have a long enough board to cover this whole wall. So then what we have to do is find the stud, which you have to do no matter what. So you know where to nail. So you find your stud, usually obviously use outlets because there's a stud on either side. Found there's a stud right here. This measures 105. Yeah, 105 right here. This is where the stud's at. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut an angle. We do not want to butt these in together. It's going to look horrible. So on the first piece, you cut a 45 with it long towards the other piece. So it's going to be a cut like this, okay? And then the next piece is going to be long going this way. So it covers it up nicely with the second piece. I forgot my glue, wood glue, but it's good to fill that cut with glue so it doesn't open up. Maybe I can find some here. So I'm going to show you how we're doing that. Once again, this is really tall base. It's beautiful, but I will never do it again. I guess I should have told the lumberyard the height. Stay at like 3 inches, 3 1/4. Oh, there's my dad. He's heading off on a river cruise today, so. All right, I'm sorry. I did not record me actually doing this. But as you can just see, you can barely see this line. So there's a 45. So the first piece, you do a 45 long on the inside. Second piece, 45 long on the outside. On a stud, okay? You have to have it on a stud. Toenail, use wood glue. No. There's a little bit of an edge, but you can barely even see this. I'm just going to leave it. Sometimes you just have to take a little bit of a stain, but that looks pretty darn good. And then you just hit square edge right here. We have an obtuse angle. This is not a 90. So what we're going to use is this guy to figure out our angle. Now, obviously we have casing here, so we cannot find that. So I'm going to go to figure out, to get a good idea what the angle is, okay? So this sometimes I have a hard time reading, but all right, so this angle, this shows for the single cut. So it would be 29 degrees, but I'm going to do 2 cuts. So I'm going to follow that arrow, and they're going to be, it looks like I'm going to make 2 cuts at 30 degrees. I don't quite understand this thing sometimes, but that is what I'm going to go with. So I'm going to cut 2 at 30 degrees. And we're going to butt them here and see if it works, okay? So this is the 30 degrees. I did a 30 degree on each one, just like that thing said. That's pretty darn good. A little bit open in the back, but to be honest, I might just leave it because it's behind a door. Barely can even see it, but I might work on that angle just a tish. All right, so I've tried making this one 31, and I think that actually made it worse. So I'm gonna try 29 degrees. All right, so that's even worse at 29 degrees. So I'm gonna stick with 30. As I've said 1,000 times, do not use tall base. It sucks. This is taking me too long. All right, I got this. This is not nailed in yet. That looks like a really nice corner, but look at this. Ooh. So drywall is not perfect, okay? As you can tell, it drops way in right there. That's why on this piece, first of all, put the small piece in that's up against the casing first, then this piece. If you put this piece in first, good luck getting that in. Ain't gonna happen, okay? So, but you don't wanna just nail this piece on, be all done with it, or glue it, and then put this one on. You wanna kinda do these at the same time so you can make sure these are perfect, okay? So I'm just gonna use glue on this one because the nailer is gonna push so hard, it's gonna shove that in. And this isn't gonna see any traffic, it's behind the door. So, liquid nails. Put a blob on the bottom that's pretty big because it's obviously open on the bottom. A little blob on the top. Disaster to watch. Okay, this way I can also kind of wiggle it to where I need it. I'm gonna slide this guy in. I'm gonna keep that there. I'm probably not gonna nail this down here because that'll push in. So I'm gonna tap. I might even just glue that bottom too. Okay, little trick. Putty knife. Get that underneath there. Lift up just so you have friction. I'm able to pull that corner in tight so I can still get some nails. There we go. Okay, and once again, I didn't have a long enough piece. So then, here we go. Kind of chip a little bit, but I have to put a little stain on there. 45 right on this stud. And then this guy's gonna go in just like that, okay? Okay, here again we have another obtuse angle. This is 11 and 11, okay? The reason we have so many angles in here is because we wanted a nice hallway that doesn't have so many sharp, hard corners. Because like I said before, elderly are gonna be living in here. It sounds kind of morbid, but we want a gurney to be able to get into either room easily. And if you have non-diagonal halls, it's kind of impossible. Okay, this angle is pretty good. You see how it's so tight on the bottom, but not on the top? I'm more concerned about having it tight on the top and not on the bottom. So I'm gonna take my palm sander and just lightly sand the bottom parts of these angles so that it'll close up the top. For little things like this, don't waste your time measuring. Put that piece right there. Get it square up against that piece of casing. Right against this casing and make a nice mark. Now that's your line to cut. Okay, make sure it fits. It might be a hair length too. Oh my gosh, it's perfect. Now, I'm not gonna try and shove a nail in there because it's probably gonna split. So, dab, dab. Perfect.
Okay, now, little tiny opening. Let's see if a piece goes right in there. I think we'd be better off not trying to put a piece in there and just having this piece come right all the way here. The other thing to do is notice this is actually tighter than a 45. See how it goes in? This is not a square 45. And the other thing to notice is this big old wad of garbage. That's going to hang you up. Okay. All right. Now we're up against the tub. You think it would be a straight square? This one is actually pretty straight up and down. It's not like it's bowing one or another. So I just cut a straight 90-degree cut. However, it is, if I just cut it straight, it's open on the front because it kind of crashes in. It's tight on the back. So all I did was I just cut, I don't know if you can even see it, but I cut a 45. Basically, I just took the inside 90 off, cut it to 45, sanded it. So that has a much better cut, or else that back corner hits right here, and then this tub actually goes in. So it would have left like a gap like that. So now we can nice and tight. And then what I'll do is I'll take just silicone and fill this with a clear coat. Don't try to use a dark, like brown caulk. You think it's gonna look really good and it won't. So use a clear coat just so that the water potentially just kind of splashes off and doesn't get deep in there. All right, you guys, I'm doing base here, and this is some really nice base. It is 4¼ inches tall. Honestly, I probably won't go that tall again next time. It's really pretty, but it is a pain. I like to be able to cut on the miter saw with it standing up, but I have to lay it down flat and cut it at an angle because this is so tall, my saw blade's not even big enough. So this corner, a lot of times outside corners of a shower are a real pain because the drywall guy probably didn't make these perfectly square. And in this case, they are not. So there's a lot of stuff you got to do. Pound this all out. This was sticking out 1/4 inch, or when you just stick this out and it's flush on the top but not on the bottom. You just got to figure out how to fix this, okay? So, and then also what I did, you can't tell, but this is a 1 degree angled cut because just to make sure this fits so nice, this is actually kind of beveled. So it was open on the top but tight on the bottom. So now that thing is perfect. Okay. And I'm still going to run a bead of silicone or something just to a little water permeability. It's still not perfect. We're going to have a little bit of an opening there on the top just because this was so far out of whack. So what I'll do is I'll just take a piece of frog tape right on that baseboard and then run a bead of caulk just to fill that in. That's probably the only place I'll ever use caulk for this kind of trim. So once again, I popped all this out, and then these still were not fitting perfectly. So then what I actually ended up doing was taking my sander and sanding, since it was open on the front right here. This is way over exaggerated, but if it's open on the front but closed in the back, if you sand down the back, palm sander or belt sander, just a little bit at a time, then you'll get these to fit perfectly. So really take your time to make sure this all works perfectly. What I like to do, not so much with a short piece, but what I'll do is I'll get this cut the way I want it. I'll shove it right up, take my knife, make a mark, then that is where I'll make my cut, is where that mark with the knife, because that'll get to like a 1/100th of an inch rather than taking out your tape measure and trying to figure it out being off by 1/16 of an inch. So now I'm going to start just working my way around and getting these all to fit perfectly. I had this tape. You got to use frog tape. Don't use the blue stuff. I just had this pressed tightly up against the base. I ran a bead of caulk, my finger right across it, and now I can just feel. And it's perfect.
Okay, so here's another example where that was a pretty wide crack, just the drywall set in, and this board is not forgiving as far as going in. So what I did was you press firmly on this frog tape. If it's white trim, you can just caulk it without tape and just use your finger and fill it in and it'll look fine. Or just go over again with paint. So then I'm just going to really get in that crack. Okay. Then you're just gonna, oh, that's not quite. There we go. Okay. So it does not get on the actual board. When it comes to using the miter saw, you can very easily have a piece of wood not be square. So once again, I keep saying it, do not use really tall base because I can't cut this all the way down. It stops about your foot. So when you are cutting and you're cutting like this, make sure it is completely pushed up against here. Try not to use this side because you see it's got a little bit of a groove. So it can more likely tip. So cut like that, straight down. Make sure you have downward pressure. If you're cutting it flat, because I had to do that a lot with this base, make sure it is pushed all the way that way and pushed down because it can mess you up horribly. So just make sure when you're cutting, it is flat up against here as tight as it can go. Don't be kind of wiggly about it. Really push. And that'll keep you having square and good cuts. All right, here's an example of, once again, tall base sucks. This is not a 90 degree. It is greater. This caves way in and you can see kind of how that goes in. This goes in. Okay, so if you had shorter trim, we could do like a 46 degree on both instead of a 45 and see if that would fit. With this taller trim, it is a true bear to do anything greater than a 45. So what I'm doing is I'm putting a bunch of nail filler, and I'm sure someone's gonna think this is not the right way, but I'm gonna have a gap right here. If I air nail it, it's gonna press that tight. I don't wanna do that. I'll air nail right here where this is a nice seam. This is where everyone's gonna see. They're not gonna see there. I'm gonna run a bead of caulk, and they're not gonna see that, but they will see this outside corner, which is way more unforgiving. So we want that outside corner to be perfect. Like I said, if this was smaller base, I'd probably do a 46 and 46. I'm not gonna do that. After that dries, I'm just gonna run a bead right there. All right, there's the finished product. Nice outside corner. Just a little bead run right there. Can't even see it. All right, I'm gonna show you a little trick as to how to do an outside corner without measuring at all. You take one piece that is longer than the board by at least a couple inches. I have my 45 there. So it's actually gonna run this way. So that I don't have to measure. Put that right up against there. Take my knife, mark. Now this is gonna be a straight cut. All right, so once again with this tall base, like I said, you can only go to 45 degrees on a side cut for this tall base. A little trick to get to like a 46 or something, shove a paint stick or some cardboard underneath, and that'll get that angle just a little bit more. That's a little trick. All right, you guys, that's a wrap. The only piece I have left is this wall. Just bam, bam, bam. Same thing. This inside corner is going in again, so we're gonna have to probably do the same thing like we did over there. Hopefully that was helpful. Oh, I have one more right there too. Quick little thing, do not do your closets until the very end. Just make sure if you have enough base, because this is all I have left as far as long pieces, and I still have to do this wall. And if I would have done the closets, I would have ran out. So closets, I had a lot of extra casing that we put around here. So this is actually casing around the base. Looks just fine, but when it's in a closet and there's no continuous flow, it doesn't matter really. So do the closets last. All right, you guys, hopefully that was helpful. Check out buildingboys.com. You can get this whole duplex for yourself, and you can do this yourself. All right, take it easy. Okay, it's going to be a couple days before I do this piece of trim work. So to be honest, I'm really sick of dealing with these corners that are going in so much. So I'm just going to mud these the next couple days and just really feather that out. Oh, sorry. Okay, we're just going to do that on all of them. All right, so there we go. So I'm going to hit this again probably tomorrow. I won't get back to this after Memorial Day. Might even be 2 weeks because then I'm going on vacation. But hit that. And that's going to make these corners way easier. All right, guys. Take care.